Hey, it's anniversary week here at the Second Act Success Career Podcast. We are still celebrating 2 years of the show, and I'm so happy to have you here with us. I am your host, career transition coach, Shannon Russell, and I can't thank you enough for listening and spending just a part of your day with me here listening to the show. I do not take it for granted that you are listening to my show. It truly means the world to me. On the Second Act Success Career Podcast, we share stories of women who have gone from a first act to a second act and really have found success through a career transition. All this week, I have been pulling out some of my favorite episodes from the past 2 years to revisit and listen to once again. We are also hosting a celebration giveaway. I will be giving away a bundle of my favorite professional development books to a special listener. To enter, take a screenshot of the podcast, share it on Instagram, and tag and follow me at Second Act Success. I'll also post on Instagram so you can like that post, share it to your stories, and tag another female that you think deserves a little something special too. This giveaway will end on Sunday, May 5th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. The contest is open to entries from Canada and the U.S. Good luck! Hey you, are you feeling stuck, desperate for a career change, or thinking of starting a business but you're just not sure how to make your first move? I'm television producer turned career coach Shannon Russell, and this is the Second Act Success Career Podcast. This is where you will not only get the career advice you've been craving, but you'll get tips from career and business experts, along with inspiration from others who have made a career transition to find second act success. Let's get started. Today, we are revisiting the success story of Megan Goldshine. Megan went from working in the jewelry industry in New York City to opening not one, but 2 Pure Barre businesses. I just loved the journey that Megan went on, and I found her story to be so relatable. So let's get to it. This is Megan Goldshine and her second act success story. It's lovely to have you here. Thank you for being with us. Let's start with your Act 1. Where did you begin your career?
So I grew up working for my parents. They had a small business in the town where I grew up in Massachusetts. They owned a jewelry store. So when I was really little, my dad would put me to work at sidewalk sales. He would give me, a Windex bottle to spray and clean off his countertop. So I always had a good work ethic from my early days. I went to college at Boston University. I graduated with a degree in journalism and very quickly realized I did not want to be in that world. So when I decided to move to New York City, I just pivoted and fell back on something that was really comfortable for me. I started working at a retail jewelry store. And after about a year or so of that, and realizing that I was the only person I knew working nights and working weekends, and I couldn't really go out with my friends and have fun, I transitioned into the buying office at that jewelry store. And I started working on the wholesale side of the jewelry industry. I did that for a really long time.
Did you work for any big brands that we would know about?
So if you went into Macy's and went to their jewelry counter, or Sears or Kay's or Zales, all those kind of stores, I sold the jewelry that was in their showcases.
Yeah, I'm sure you tried on so many pieces.
I remember the first buying trip my dad took me to New York City when I was 16 and trying on, an emerald bib necklace just for fun. It was, this 16-year-old girl from Massachusetts who had no city experience, no anything, living it up and wearing $100,000 necklaces and things like that.
Wow.
Felt very glamorous.
I bet it did. So what happened next on your journey in jewelry?
I pivoted and transitioned over to a logistics company that serviced the jewelry industry. So instead of selling the jewelry to retailers, I was transporting the jewelry to retailers.
Interesting.
And it's kind of like FedEx for valuables, if you think about it that way. I did that for another 8 years or so got married, got pregnant, had my first daughter. I had a hard time going back to work. I had a hard time with my employer getting a space to pump to express milk for her. They gave me a really difficult time about it. And after a really tough day with a horrible incident with my pumping, I went to take a bar class at Equinox. I still lived in New York City at the time. I was taking a bar class that night and just thinking to myself, what can I do that is not what I'm doing right now? What can I do that I'm passionate about that will allow me to be with my family a little bit more? And a light bulb kind of went off in my head. And I started just thinking in this class, I wonder if there's a Pure Barre studio where we're going to move. Very quickly after having a child, we realized that we could not sustain a life in New York City. So we sold our apartment, realized that we were going to move to Westchester, New York, which is where I live now. And I started researching it. I realized there was nothing close by, and there was nothing that offered class times for working moms. There were no early morning classes. There were no evening classes. The only studios, whether it was a yoga studio, a bar studio, it didn't matter. They had 2 class times, and it was 8:30 and 9:45. So if you are not a stay-at-home mom, or you're not, someone whose kids are grown, you really didn't have any options. I started thinking about it. I said to my husband, I'm really interested in this. I think I am going to look into opening the studio. And it took him a little while to get him on board, but he has been wonderful and fully supportive. And that was 5 years ago at this point. We have survived a pandemic and come out stronger on the other side. My studio is in Mount Kisco, New York, and I'm opening another studio in Danbury, Connecticut, which is only about 20 minutes from where my studio is now. I'm really excited about it.
Wow. Opening a second after the pandemic. Business is booming for you.
I mean, the pandemic was tough. We were shut down for a really long time. The fact of the matter is, I've had 0 cases of COVID spread to this day in my studio because of all of the safety precautions we've taken, all of the air filtration that we've taken, the distance that is between you and the person next to you. So we've done a really good job of keeping it a safe space. And as the mandates have gone by the wayside, things have gotten better again.
I was noticing that you have an on-demand program as well. Did that get developed over COVID?
Never in my wildest dreams could I have imagined that we would have been closed for 6 months. We closed on a Monday, the 16th. By Tuesday, the 17th, we were live streaming classes. I already had a private Facebook group for the studio for people to interact with each other and just have like a safe space, community space for people to share things. And we just started live streaming on that. And to this day, I have a lot of people who are still taking class at home. So now we have an actual camera inside the studio, sound system inside the studio, everything's connected. We've been Zooming classes so we can still see people at home. We can still interact with them. People who still feel like they're a part of our community and still involved and still getting to do that thing that gives them the stress relief and the exercise that they love.
That's really a great thing that came out of all of this, don't you think? We wouldn't have thought to do that pre-COVID. And now the fact that you can reach these people at home in their comfort zone and you were able to sustain the business over that 6 months, that's a huge testament to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Tell me about the day-to-day of running this business and how you think it's going to be running too.
I mean, you're a business owner. You know that a lot of the moving pieces are not things that the public sees. There's a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of intricacies, a lot of mundane things that are involved with running a business. Like right now, I'm finishing up my schedule for the month and posting that online and, alerting my staff of when they're going to be coming in and out. I have to run payroll when we finish this call.
Me too. It's the worst part of the week. Just because it's tedious and your skills can be better used at other things, but it's something that has to be done.
Exactly. There's, a lot of that that people don't see. And I do spend a lot of my time doing those behind the scenes things. So while I do teach classes at the studio and I do work at the desk and, I understand and can do any function there, that's not really my day to day. I have a great team of people. I have a wonderful sales staff. I have a great manager. I have fabulous teachers. We're putting a whole bunch of new people through teacher training right now, just trying to get ready for the new studio so that when we open, we have strong, confident teachers. So I'll be, there half the week, here half the week, and have staff in both places who are just holding it down.
I've learned over the years that you have to work on the business rather than in the business. It seems like you have a good plan in place, and then you'll be able to spend more time at the new studio just to kind of meet the new clients, the new, people who will be joining, and that's important.
Yeah. How long have you owned your business?
5.5 years.
What made you pivot?
I was a television producer. We were in Los Angeles, and then I got pregnant. I was the first of my friends, and we moved to the East Coast to be closer to family. My husband and I are both producers, so we're both working in Manhattan, and the commute, it was just too much. Mm-hmm. When I had my second son, it was another epiphany, kind of like you had. I was walking in heels through Times Square subway station, rushing to get my other kid from daycare. It was just too much.
When you get that call and you're in the city and at minimum you're 2 hours away from getting home, there's nothing you can do and you just feel horrible. You feel
stuck and just helpless that you can't be there as a mom the way you want to.
As much as I love the city, and I lived in the city for 15 years before we moved out, there's a time for everything. And it just wasn't my time anymore. Yeah. And I think one of the greatest things to come out of this is, I have 2 girls. One is 6 and one is 3.5. And they both get to see mom owning her own business, holding it down. My husband is an amazing partner. He is so in it. He does so much more of the day-to-day mundane parenting things than I do, especially the weekend things, because that's my busiest time at the studio. So he's the one dropping them off at dance class and taking them to soccer. So I think from both sides, they get to see this great gender reversal, role reversal from what the traditional roles are and what kids are used to seeing. And they see, that women are strong and they can do anything and they can be a boss, and they know, mommy's the boss and everyone there works for mommy. If we're in another city and we drive by a Pure Barre, my kids get excited. Mommy, look, there's a Pure Barre there. They're so in it. They're so involved in it. They love it.
You're giving them the balance. They're seeing a balance between mommy and daddy. And in this day and age, different than when we were younger, there is no traditional family anymore. So that's wonderful that he's so supportive.
Yeah.
Does he work in the business or does he work outside of the home?
He works outside of the home. He can never leave his job. He has amazing health care.
There you go.
It's very hard to get the health care that he has when you own your own business, but he works in book publishing. He's in a great position. He loves what he does. He has a great work-life balance.
So weekends are really busy for you. How do you juggle that mom time?
I try to teach at the studio one night a week. I try to do one morning, one night, and then everybody rotates weekends because no one wants to give up their whole weekend. I'm with the kids a lot. 5 to 7 is definitely our witching hour. They come home from school. They're hungry. They're tired. They don't know what to do with themselves first. But we get a lot of quality time. I try to bring them to the studio if I have something to do. They can keep themselves busy. They're used to going in there. They know all of the staff. During COVID, when our house was feeling like it was too small for all of us, we would take the kids there and just let them run around and burn off energy.
And that's wonderful to be able to take them to work. I can too. I have my own brick and mortar, and my kids have a couch here in my office. It's like they're home away from home. If school's out and you don't have anything to do with them, they can come with you. I don't know about you. Even if I don't want to go to work, I woke up, I'm tired. I always say how much I love work and I get to go to work because I don't want the kids to think that work is this dreaded thing that adults have to do. I always try to say, I am so lucky to be doing this. I'm so lucky to have this business. I try to keep it a positive thing. So if they're sad that I have an event to do on the weekends, I'm like, but it's great. Mommy's so happy. And when I get home, I'll be able to tell you all about it. It's nice because they feel like they're a part of it as much as we are.
Totally. I taught a class this morning at 6:00, came home as my husband was running out the door, and my daughter came downstairs and said, "Did you already go to the studio today? Did you already do a class?" Like, she knew. I didn't have to tell her anything. She knows our routine.
Do they like to work out, exercise, stay fit, do the classes with you?
For me, the most important thing is just body positivity and having them feel good about themselves. My older daughter will come home and say, "Oh, so and so said she had a fat belly after she ate." And we really try to keep that kind of talk out of the house. We try to, eat whole foods. I love a dessert as much as anyone else, and I love a glass of wine as much as anyone else. But we really try to just focus on, eating real food and feeling good about the things that we do. My older one is in gymnastics. Both of the girls are in dance classes. They're doing soccer. So they're moving their bodies in all sorts of different ways and trying different things. And, if we don't like something that we're doing, that's okay to talk about too. But it's important to try things.
They're so used to being on the iPads and just being very static. It's important to get them out there moving too, just as much as we can. And us too, making sure that we have time for ourselves to go to the gym, for us to go for walks and just kind of show that example.
When we have new people coming into our studio, we always say, you schedule everything in your life. Schedule some time for this. Just put that in your calendar. Say that this is the time, the 1 hour you're blocking off to go do something for yourself. 1 hour is less than 5% of your day. It doesn't have to be coming to my studio to do anything. It could be, go take a walk, go read a book, whatever it is that's going to make you feel good in your body and put your mind at ease. That's what you should be doing.
Why do you think it's so hard for us to do that?
Our generation is we're in such a difficult place, right? Like, I'm a child of the 80s. I went outside when I got home from school and stayed there until it got dark and my parents were yelling for me. We're not that loosey-goosey with our kids. We're more connected to technology and to all of these online platforms than our parents were. So we're constantly second guessing ourselves. We're constantly looking for that gratification. We're the instant gratification generation because you can just type something into a search box and find the answer. If you're not sure what you're doing as a parent, you can look online for an answer. If you feel like there's something wrong in your body, you can go to WebMD and make yourself crazy and start spiraling out to find an answer as to what's going on instead of just using your head to think.
Right.
And a lot of the time we're just too connected to all of our devices, and we have a hard time putting our brains at ease and turning our brains off. I need to practice some mindful breathing as I'm getting ready to rest my head for the night because I need to literally turn my brain off. And I think that's how most moms feel. It's like your mind is going a million miles a minute and you can't put into words or even write down a list of all of the things that are keeping your mind busy. So the more you can really just try to disconnect from those things and be mindful about doing that, I think the saner people will feel.
You were saying that you were having a really bad day working in the city. You went to a bar class, and you had this epiphany to start this business because you felt so good at this class. What is it about a bar class that is different than going to work out at a gym just on a treadmill?
So I actually loathe working out. A treadmill is a dirty word to me. An elliptical is like a torture device because you're just constantly moving your feet to nowhere. I've never enjoyed working out. When I was in my late 20s, I started having a lot of gastrointestinal issues and ended up getting diagnosed with celiac. I was Googling it, trying to understand what it was, trying to talk to nutritionists and understand what my diet was going to turn into. And there was no knowledge, no awareness, and certainly not the level of products that we have now available to us. I mean, anywhere you go to a restaurant, the menu is so clearly labeled. You understand what's gluten-free. There's a general understanding. If someone says they have celiac, people nod and say, yes, I understand what that is. It wasn't like that 15, 20 years ago. So I think that was the catalyst for me. And then a lot of things started to fall into place. But it took me a couple of years before I really dialed down on my diet and said, this is physically making me sick and I need to stop doing this. My boss at the time told me that I should, just be mindful about more than just what I'm eating, and was very encouraging about getting me to move my body. And I tried a barre class with her at Exhale on Central Park South. And I'd never experienced anything like it. It felt torturous while I was doing it, but I felt wonderful afterward. There is a mindfulness to barre similar to the mindfulness that's in yoga, that mind-body connection and just kind of disconnecting with the rest of the world for the time that you're there. So I started taking barre classes there. I tried all of the boutique fitness studios in the city that offered barre and tried all sorts of different ones. I had my membership at Equinox until I opened my studio and was taking barre classes there. The first time I took a Pure Barre class, I stopped halfway through and was like, I'm dying. This is the hardest class I've ever taken. I have no idea what just happened to me, but I wanted to do it more. I loved it. It's all about these tiny, tiny little moves, but it's really targeted specifically for women to work all of the quote unquote areas that we want to work. It cinches in the waist. It really focuses on the core of the entire class. It gives you that defined hourglass figure that women tend to look for. And it's not a HIIT workout. You're not shredding your muscles. It's something you really could do 7 days a week if you want. It's a full body workout, and it's something that will not deteriorate your body. So you can keep that low impact workout going on as often as you want. As much as I love my studio, I will take class there. I'm there, 4 times plus a week taking class as a client, just to have that time to turn off my brain and have that time for myself.
You're a client and the owner.
People love that. They love, and most of our teachers do take class at the studio. It feels like a very warm community. Everybody knows everyone by name. You're greeted by name when you come in the door. Everybody's in each other's business. We all know what's happening. We know who's going on vacation. We know who's injured, all of these different things. But it really is a very tight-knit group.
Pure Barre is a franchise. What is that process like?
So a super fun twist for me was that I signed my paperwork to open my studio like a month before it opened. My franchisor was bought by another franchisor, or they sold the rights to Pure Barre to another franchisor who did things 180 degrees differently. They wanted a different design layout, all sorts of fun things that at the last minute we were changing out, and there was like a whole different structure to open. So my current franchisor is a fitness only franchisor. They're a company called Exponential Fitness. They own Club Pilates, they own Stretch Lab, they own Row House, they own Cycle Bar. So a lot of different types of modalities. They didn't have a barre brand, and they wanted the biggest barre brand. If this is something you decide you want to do, they want to meet you. They want to meet you in person. You have to give a significant monetary commitment to secure your rights to your territory. Once you have an area defined, you then have to find your real estate. Your franchisor will work with you. They'll give you somebody in a development role. They'll give you somebody in a real estate role, hopefully in a sales role, depending what type of franchise you have. But they'll give you all of these different tools. I knew this was something I wanted to do, but I had never taught a fitness class before. So rather than open my own business from scratch, I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So that's why I looked at the franchising route, and I was just stuck on Pure Barre from the minute I took a class. It's just the best and hardest of all the barre classes, and you want to be the best.
Looking back, was this the right decision for you and your family?
Totally, 100%. Ask me that again after I open the Danbury studio and we'll see. But no, I mean, it's given me so much flexibility and autonomy and a way to be connected to my family that I would not have had if I stayed where I was, and a way to be involved in the community. I never would have met all of the people who I know and have had all of the connections I do without opening my business.
Do you ever feel like you need some support as you plan for your next career move? Then I invite you to join my membership, the Career Clarity Collective. Inside, you'll have access to a community of like-minded women. You'll also take part in weekly group coaching calls with me. Plus, you'll get a monthly masterclass lesson and a resource to help you start plotting your career pivot. Head over to secondactsuccess.co/membership to enroll, or grab the link in the show notes below. I'll see you inside the collective. I'm right there with you. I agree. I never thought I would have such an involvement in the community as I do. Mm-hmm. And it really is wonderful. It makes you really love where you live and want to be a part of it. Was there ever a question that your family might have wanted you to work in the family business? Was that ever an option or something on the table?
That's a great question. I think that they would have been happy to have me be involved in the business, but they also wanted to see me grow and exceed. You always want your kids to do better than you have, right? You want them to be stronger and more successful. And I don't think I could have had the life I have now if I moved back home.
How do your parents feel being business owners themselves now that you are a business owner almost times two from your second?
They're so proud of me. I was, I think, 6 or 7 years old the first time my dad, brought me into the store for a sidewalk sale. People thought it was cute, like this little kid be like, "Can I help you? Do you want to see anything in this case?" They are constantly reminding me to keep the work-life balance because, you can't turn things off when you're your own business. There's always something that can need your attention. So being able to turn that off and just focus on the family is really important. I have a great team at the studio. I have an even greater team at home. And that's how I think about us. When I was getting married, I never thought I would change my surname. My maiden name was Sachs, but I felt like I was joining a team when I got married, and I didn't want my kids to have any confusion as to who they were. I wanted it to just be clearly defined. That's how I think about us. We're all on the same team and just trying to make it through every day and every minute together. My parents always really instilled a work ethic in me. When I was old enough to drive, they gave me 2 options. They said I could drop them off at work in the morning and take their car, and I didn't want to deal with that. So I saved up money to buy my own car because they weren't buying me one. And once I had the car, I had to keep working to put gas money into it. Like there were no handouts.
Great example. And that was a team then, and now you've formed your own team now.
Yeah.
How do you think the jewelry industry prepared you to open your own business?
The best part about being in the jewelry industry, I was just saying this to someone because I have a wedding to go to and I have nothing to wear. I have nothing at all jewelry wise to wear. The best part was being able to get jewelry anytime you needed it and just wear these, amazing like Met Gala styled necklaces and all of the crazy garb that you could easily get without even having to think about it. It's a very different industry. I mean, the brick and mortar jewelry industry is not an industry that's thriving. A lot of things have turned online well before COVID. There's Amazon, there's Walmart, just kind of dumbing down jewelry and making it cheaper and more available to the masses, which is great. But that fine jewelry product and the craftsmanship that was there is just not there anymore. So I miss that portion of the wholesale side of things. From the logistics side of things, I started in a business development role and I did not anticipate or expect what ended up happening. I have no regrets about the choices I made. I got to see the world working at that job. I've been to Peru, I've been to Scotland, I've been to Hong Kong and Singapore and India. I mean, places I would have never had the opportunity to see if I, one, stayed working for my parents and eventually taking over that business, or two, hadn't made the decision to shift gears and move to the logistics side of things. I was building new businesses for the company I worked for, getting into areas of business that they had never experienced. So I was just figuring it out as I went along. And I think that really laid the groundwork and made things more of a seamless transition for me. Selling that intangible, I went from selling a piece of jewelry to then selling the concept of security. And that's really what I do now, right? I sell a concept to people. Yes, we have these classes, but you're really giving somebody this peace of mind back. You're giving them the mindfulness, the peacefulness, whatever it is that they need when they're walking in the studio doors. You're giving them that idea back. Yes, you're helping them physically transform their body into what they want it to be. But I really think about that as the last piece of the puzzle. It's about so much more than that. Someone who's coming to the studio is coming for a reason. They're searching for something. So we try to give them what it is they're searching for. I'm a big believer that everything in life happens for a reason. And I think all of those things gave me the life experience and the know-how I needed to do what I'm doing now.
Do you feel the transition, the pivot from working in Manhattan to owning your own business now is the work-life balance you want it to be?
The life balance could always be better, and I think that's part of what we were talking about with, mindfulness and turning your brain off. It's very easy to let yourself spiral, especially if something goes wrong within your business. And then you can second and third and fourth guess it. And I'm someone who very easily loses sleep over something. So trying to remember that nothing is as bad as it seems, nothing is as big of a deal as it seems, and just really focusing on the family when you're around them, putting down the devices, not constantly picking up the device or picking up the laptop to see what's going on and check in. It's not necessary. It's all going to still be there in the morning.
I'm with you. It's really hard to do, but you're right. This customer doesn't need me to reply right now. I can get back to them tomorrow. Oh. Everything's going to be fine.
Totally.
Good reminders. Do you think that there's kind of a common thread between all of your different ventures in life up until now?
That is a great question. Might be a question for like a psychologist.
It could be.
Little introspection. I've never been afraid of taking risks. Once I decide to take the risk, then I get nervous and worry if I've made the right choice. And then the second guessing starts. But I think that's been a major theme in my life. I moved to New York City without having a job. I just knew that's where I wanted to be. Figured it out when I got there. I realized that I needed to transition, figured out how to do that, figured out how to work for a different side of the business, and then realized when, maybe it wasn't time for me to be in that business at all anymore. And at no point did I ever avoid risk. I always just went for it. So I would say that's probably the underlying theme in my life.
And I'm hearing the theme of a team too, because without the support of your husband, without the support of your parents, I feel like it makes those kind of risks a lot scarier.
Yeah, totally.
All right, it's time for our 5 fast cues of the week. Here we go. In every episode, I do the 5 fast cues that every guest gets to answer the same 5 questions. Here's the first one. Name one thing that these different chapters in your life have taught you.
Humility.
Would you recommend taking a leap into a big life change to your best friend?
Yes, without question.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to someone trying to start their second act?
Go for it.
What does the next chapter of life look like for you?
Exciting.
Where can our audience connect with you?
Most of my social media accounts are set to private, so you can request to follow me. My Instagram is MRS Goldshine. You can follow us at Pure Bar Mount Kisco, MTKISCO, or you can follow us at Pure Bar Danbury, where we're just getting started.
This was so fun. I feel like our lives are aligned in a lot of ways.
And you with all of the things you have going on. It's all exciting.
Thank you so much, Megan. It was wonderful chatting with you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you found some gems of inspiration and some takeaways to help you on your path to second act success. To view show notes from this episode, visit secondactsuccess.co. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. Reviews only take a few moments, and they really do mean so much. Thank you again for listening. I'm Shannon Russell, and this is Second Act Success. Have you been wondering if now is the right time to change careers? If you have been asking yourself that question, you are not alone. I created a new 10-question quiz that will give you the clarity you need. Download the quiz at secondactsuccess.co/quiz. You will get results quick. Plus, you'll get action items for you to implement right away. I am also including private podcast links to give you even more information on how you can move forward to pursue your second act career. You can grab it now at secondactsuccess.co/quiz. Good luck.